Well, Miriam, it's awesome having you inside of Kiln community again. It was pretty intentional that we had this conversation in front of one of the murals you've done for Kiln. There are many things we really appreciate about you as a person and as an artist. That's why we've contracted you to do your artistry in our space, and also why we were excited to have you as our first guest on this conversation series at Kiln.
Well, I'm super excited to be here and really fun to be in front of this was the first that I did for y'all.
Okay.
So yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Something that we wholeheartedly believe at Kiln is that each individual, everybody, has something special to offer. You've had a pretty unique journey, I think, identifying your particular, gift, and maybe speak to that briefly.
Oh, sure. I did not even call myself an artist until my 30s. I had children. As soon as I had children, I had like a real need to start my creative life. And I started it like it was my full-time job. Like it was like, I just really needed an outlet that was all my own.
Yeah.
And I really believe that effort of just digging into who I am as a person, not just as a mother, but as a whole person, has been a lifeline to me as a parent that has helped me stay present and happy and capable in my parenting duties, is to have this space that's totally my own, and that I was free to push and pull and grow and explore, that was completely outside of my role as mom, which of course it never is. They bleed into each other.
Yeah.
But I think in the best way. I think that one has enhanced the other and vice versa.
It's really fascinating that you became a real artist in your 30s.
Yeah.
Really unique.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people that hit 25 or late 20s or even in their 30s, and they feel like all the critical decisions have been made and they can't reinvent themselves, or they can't do what they've always wanted to do because they need to pay bills or whatever it is that they feel limited by.
I think that like when you're a kid and you see adults being adults, you sort of have this idea of the way that they choose their life and the path that they're on, or, vocation seems to be this thing that's really, so inherent to being an adult. And I never felt that pressure of like, oh gosh, I gotta have this figured out. I'm almost 40 and I still feel I'm like, ooh, what am I going to be when I grow up? And so, it kind of felt like I was, a gold miner, and I was tapping and I found this vein of gold. The way that my line drawing started was a 100-day project, which is like a hashtag challenge on Instagram. And you choose some creative project, whatever it is. And sometimes it's not really creative, but generally it is. Choose it, and then you do it every day for 100 days. I decided to do it on, it couldn't have been more of a whim. There was no thought that went into it.
Scrolling through your feed, saw the 100-day challenge.
Yeah, and I was like, ooh, that sounds fun. I want to do something, but I was like, it has to be really simple. And I had never done line drawing before, but I was like, I had seen it, and I had kind of, I think in my notebook, I had doodled, a face, and I thought that was fun. So literally was just totally circumstantial that it popped into my head, and I was like, I'm going to try that. And then it was like finding that vein of gold. I was like, oh, there's something here. This is fun. And people, responded to it in such a fun way from the very beginning. And I'm still doing it because I still find it really, really fascinating. It still has that special something for me where I'm curious about it, and I'm, I want to keep going until I figure it out,
Is there a possibility that maybe this runs its course and the vein of gold becomes another vein?
Oh, I will never put limits on. I am someone that cannot box myself in. In fact, I feel very restless if I'm doing one thing for too long. That's why I think I work in so many different mediums, is I really need that fresh excitement of working in something new. So for me, I jump around from one. If I've done one for a while, then I'm like, okay, time to switch. I'm doing art. Doing painting now, or block printing, or whatever. So who knows? I do know that I'm really interested in it still, and I still feel like there's a lot of mystery there for me. So, at least for the next while, it's where I am. But yeah, who knows? Who knows where I'll end up?
Great. Yeah, we could spend a long time, I think, talking about point that came out of that. For some reason, society has built itself in a way where there are pretty strict linear paths that people are told they need to take in order to de-risk. Largely, it's like de-risk their personal financial situation, de-risk their just life overall.
Yeah, I think that is true, that we sort of, like, especially as I was coming of age, that was sort of the idea that you would plug yourself into like a vocation and that would be it. And I think that social media really harms creatives right now in the way that they try to pigeon. I mean, just the nature of the beast is you kind of have to declare yourself and sort of say, this is who I am, this is my style, this is my brand, before you even know what that is, because
and you're
it's
often
an evolution.
influenced by trends, right? It's like you see what's popular, and like, oh, I guess that's who I want to be. And
I mean, and I think that when you start out, there's just no way of knowing where you're and you know, by like, I get a lot of DMs from young artists who say, how did you find your style? And the truth is, you know what, this is a truth that recently has came to me, is that I feel kind of like finding your style is like excavating. It is always there underneath the surface. It is wholly intact and a part of you from the very beginning, and it's just chipping away at it. And then, you know, after so many hours doing the thing, you're going to find like a femur, and you're going to be like, oh, okay, like how does this plug into the whole? And then you'll find another piece, and they plug in, you know, they connect, and you can kind of get a bigger idea of what's the whole. And, you know, sooner or later, you are going to have a really good idea. It's just going to be, it's going to be clear to you what's happening. But you only get there by showing up and making art, or doing the thing that you're doing, that you really, you know, you find what is already a part of you, but you're kind of like just unearthing it little by little.
That was a topic I wanted to dive deeper in with you as well. That almost, and this is something that I've actually wondered about for a while, which is, how does an artist arrive at their style? Maybe help, you know, me and maybe others understand how that comes about. Yeah,
I think style is something you just can't worry about. It's not something that you can control, or, you know, you just have to follow your curiosity.
That's interesting.
You just do the thing that you're curious about, work at it. That's the problem that you're trying to solve, is the thing that you're curious about, not what it is. As a creative, if you're online, you know, which I honestly am trying to be less and less, but, you know, the way that it's set up, it really rewards that external feedback that becomes so important, and that's what, you know, if you're in it at all to grow, that's what they'll tell you, is just figure out what works and then do that again and again. And that is like the worst way to find anything about yourself, or do anything that really makes you happy.
Beating the algorithm is not the right way to live.
You know,
life.
you just gotta, your north can't be what other people think of you. The longer that I've done this, the more that my personal art mantra is, I'll have this moment where I'll, like, you know, pull back and be like, oh, this is not good. This, you know, and you hear that, you have the shoulder angel of like, oh, this, you know, like, run through the list of all the insecurities that you could possibly have about what you're making and why it's not good. And the thing that I tell myself is, no, this is good because making it is good. The process is good for me. It makes me happy. It makes me happy to make art. So I can't be too invested in whether or not it's good, because it's not my business. My business is to just show up and make something, because that process is really good for me as a person, as a human, and it brings me a lot of joy. And so it doesn't matter if it's good, making it is good. And so and then what other people think of it is not my responsibility, because I can't control it. And if, you know, I think that this process has sort of led me to sort of drain the ego out of my work personally, because I just don't feel like my work is important. And I know that sounds like, you know, I think we all want to believe that everything we do is important, and I do believe that, but but it's only important because it's true to who I am.
Yeah.
And it's authentic because I am doing something that matters to me and trying to express something that's true to myself.
Yeah.
And that process, because that is a pure thing, hopefully people will connect with it, and it can mean something to them. But I can't really be focused on doing something that will be important to someone because that's out of my control. The only thing I can control is the way that, the process that I show up to do it.
Can we talk briefly about subject matter?
Sure.
Seems like people.
Mm-hmm.
Is that fair? I mean, do you do anything
absolutely.
else other than people? I mean, it's silhouettes of people. Some of your artistic work is line art.
Yeah.
A lot of like negative white space.
Yeah,
Others have heavy coloring, shapes, additions.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe speak through that a little bit.
The theme that sort of pops up in both my figurative work and everything else is entanglement. I just am very inspired in the way that we are all sort of a mess together, and that there are these really intimate connections between this person and that person, and this thing and that thing. And if you pull way back, then that is this web of we are all connected, but it's so much more intimate. And I am very fascinated with that, those specific threads that sort of bind us and connect us, especially in a time where I'm still, it's a problem I still have. I'm overcoming it. And I think that's why it's interesting to me, is I'm really motivated to figure out how we are connected. And I think that art and music are becoming like more and more essential to the way that we connect, because there is nothing more unifying than experiencing art, or like a concert. You're all there feeling your own experiences, like that you've got this history that you're bringing to it together in this like really beautiful unifying experience. And I think that art is becoming more and more essential to bringing us together. I mean, it's always been important. Mm-hmm. It's always been important in language and storytelling, and I just think more and more it's going to be something that really helps us to connect to our own humanity and to each other.
Reading through some of the previous interviews you've done, perfectionism is something that I've seen come up.
Yeah.
If you could share your perspective on that.
Yeah, I think I've spent a lot of my life with that kind of goal in mind. And the older I got, my relationship with it really began to change. And I started to really resent that drive in me for perfection, because so much of perfection is sort of that external, that like it's about what people perceive of you.
Yep.
And I really I knew that I needed to let that go, and I am letting that go. And it's a process. It's not something I've arrived at yet, unfortunately, but it's something that I'm really aware of. And I just think that I think focusing on perfection is like so result driven.
Yeah.
It's about a destination, and the older I get, the more I feel it's about the journey and not the destination, and that whatever you're looking for is like actually right here, right now. And I mean, beauty is imperfection. Beauty is the uniqueness of a thing, and the depth of a thing, and it's just not something that you can control. It's the experience and the unfolding and the evolution.
I'd love to ask you, in large part because most likely the people watching back this video are going to be part of the Kiln community or an extension of it, which is largely comprised of entrepreneurs, early stage companies. There are other, larger enterprise teams, and definitely solopreneurs and creatives in the space as well. But they're people building kind of quote unquote business, right? You as an artist have a really unique perspective or vantage point on life and kind of your profession. What are some thoughts you may have around business building, around entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I mean, my journey as an artist has been right alongside and intrinsically the same as my journey as an entrepreneur. And running a successful business to me has sort of been understand first and foremost why you're there. What do you feel is important for you to do personally And then exploring and being creative and, not being too afraid to mess up and switch gears or pivot if whatever you're doing isn't working. And it takes a lot of humility, I think, to be willing to do things different, and to be, willing to be one of those people who sort of turns things on its head.
Yeah.
And I think going forward, it's going to be so important, in the businesses that exist today and that come up, is for people to do things differently, because we have a lot of systems that aren't working for us, and we have a lot of things that are just not going to work in the same way, because the world is changing so quickly, as technology develops, that we're just going to need to look at our business like an art, and be really creative and not afraid to do things really differently, and rethink success, and rethink the way that we achieve that.
Great. And if I could, just to build on that
Sure.
point, I think you made a great point there, is in decades past, I think the barriers of entry to building a company were so high that if you had money, and if you had the right factory size, and if you were close enough to the right workforce, you were going to be the winner more often than not. Whereas today, the barriers to entry are a lot less. The
Sure.
competition's higher. It's not just about being the only player or being able to, throw more money down on the table.
Or having capital, or getting
right.
past gatekeepers. And I think Kiln is definitely a part of that movement of like getting rid of the gatekeepers and giving, the more people more access to what they need to start a business. But it's definitely, I have always thought about my business life as just as much as a creative project as I have my artistic life, which I don't know if that, I don't know.
It makes a ton of sense to me.
Yeah, it is.
I think it would make a lot of sense to Kiln members too, because it's all this exercise of assembling things, whatever those things are, into a bigger thing or a different thing.
Absolutely.
that delivers value to somebody.
It's
right?
a creative project, and it takes the same, sort of like big picture. You zoom in, you get details. You zoom out, you see big picture. It's I think composing is very similar in whatever field that you're in, because building anything is creative.
Great. Well, Miriam, this has been awesome.
Yeah.
We really appreciate it as a Kiln team.
Oh, of course.
First
It's my
off,
pleasure.
for the beautiful murals that you've done in several of our communities. I think for who you are as a person and kind of redefining what perfection is, being a true artist through and through.
Thank you.
So again, thanks so much for taking the time.
Of course.
Where can people find you?
On my website, miriamtribe.com. I'm also, I have a presence on Instagram and TikTok at Miriam Tribe.
I noticed you actually have quite a lot of TikTok followers.
Yeah, I do. But it wasn't, it was just one of those things. My content did really well. I literally don't know anything about TikTok or like how to strategize or whatever. It's just
enough.
The content did really well.
Yeah.
And then I actually don't hang out there anymore just because I don't have time. But it's,
Awesome.
you never know.
Well, again, thanks so much. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. This was
And,
lovely.
Hope to see you again soon.
Yeah.